I thought, I am in hell. I'm in hell with these children and I can't do this anymore. And so I get a sensation that it starts as a warmth in my feet and it moves up and it causes me to look up. And as I do, I notice there's cracks in the ceiling and the cracks like get wider and this brilliant light starts to come through. And then the tiles start to lift and it almost starts to pour. This brilliant light starts but I am in such a state of fear, confident that I am in hell, that I think it's lava fire that's going to burn me.
Welcome to the Light the Day podcast, where we talk about all things spiritual and especially spiritually transformative experiences. I'm your host, Julie Cluff. I'm a spiritual medium, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. I'm really excited to introduce our guest today, but I also want to remind you to like and subscribe and comment. Let us know what you're thinking. I love interacting with my visitors in the comments. So be sure to do that. And without further ado, let me introduce you to our guest today, Michelle Ledbetter. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Julie.
This is so exciting. We're just meeting for the first time today. We've had a lovely conversation before we hit record. And I know a little bit about your story, and I'm super excited that you're here today to share your experiences. So, before we get into the story, tell us a little bit about who Michelle is.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be on your show. Thank you for inviting me. What an honor. And thank you for this kind of platform because, it allows people to open up to conversations that are usually not had in just general population. And so it's nice to have a platform where people can kind of speak their truth and share messages that might inspire and help other people. So thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
yeah. So my name is Michelle Ledbetter. I'm a registered nurse. I am certified in hospice and palliative care. I've been a nurse for about 33 years. I've been in hospice and palliative care for a little over 22 years. Currently, I am doing private practice. I'm working right now with a 95-year-old Korean vet who has just been a light in my life. Talk about looking at life through a different perspective. Meeting him has been a joy. I'm so grateful for the journey. I would have never imagined that life would have turned in the direction that it has. But it's a bumpy story. It's a vulnerable story. Um, but it absolutely turns out amazing. And I think that it's that way for everyone once you tap into this. So thank you again.
Oh, wonderful. Well, let's dive in. So
Yeah.
tell us about Michelle. As a child, did you have some spiritual sense? What was spirituality to you, or was there religion involved? Like, what did that look like as a child?
Yeah. So I was raised by my father for the first 7 years of my life. There was no spiritual introduction during that time. He met a lady when I was 7 who was Catholic. And so that was my first introduction into spirituality and religion. And let me tell you, Julie, it was not good. It wasn't a good
Oh,
introduction. I found it quite scary. I felt it quite overwhelming. I went through catechism and I remember sitting in these chairs in the basement of this church and just hearing that this thing that loved me so much also was going to crucify me if I did anything bad. So I walked away very fearful and I could not buy in to what they were sharing because I came from a family of abuse where there was both physical and sexual abuse.
oh
And
wow.
so anyone that has been through that or is familiar with people that have been in those situations, I didn't even know myself until I figured this out after my accident. But it really does distort your view of connection with people. It distorts your view of life in general, definitely distorts your view of yourself and your highest power, whether you call that God, life force energy. So coming up, I say I have foggy glasses on. I couldn't see real clear because of the trauma of my past.
Mm.
More so in survival mode. I was a defiant teenager because I was not happy with the way things were going. I didn't succumb to the victim mentality, or so I thought. I was a fighter. I ended up marrying very young to a beautiful soul, was stayed married for 18 years, was trying to do everything right, right? Get married, buy a house, have children, go to school. But there was still something missing. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I would explain it to myself like I feel like there's a little light in there that's covered up by a bunch of leaves. And if I could just get the leaves to get away, then it would shine through a little bit. But it was definitely covered. And
That's a
so,
that's beautiful imagery. So
yeah.
as a young adult, what was your relationship with the Catholic Church? What
Mm.
how did your spiritual life develop? Or did you did you know, I don't want to put any parameters on that question. So just share
Can
what
I
your thoughts
say,
are.
yeah, that's a good question. I'm a recovering Catholic. Again, it really was very distorting for me. And I walked away not trusting people, not trusting this God image, this life force energy image. And so, although I did have a sense of, um, I don't know if I've ever been asked it in this way that I've had to stop and think. I did have a sense of a grandeur, if I can say there's something bigger than me, but I couldn't name it. And it definitely wasn't defined in what had been taught to me.
Okay.
And so I stood defiant in that. If somebody had said God to me, especially, even as an adult, I automatically would just turn and say, "Oh, you're one of those." I put everybody in that
Mm,
box.
okay.
On me,
Okay.
that's on me, but I did. And again, I know now that it was trauma induced. It had nothing to do with the truth of what spirituality is, the truth of who we are as divine beings, the truth of the life force energy that is guiding this whole thing. I just had a very distorted view of it. So I was very anti-religion. I would say I was a seeker. I was looking for the answers. And again, after that, the marriage, as my children became a little bit more independent, my skeletons from my past started to rise. And I honestly did not even know. And like I said, I felt like there was this light that was covered up, and I had to figure it out. I ended up leaving that marriage. And the ironic thing is, I ended up causing a lot of harm, not
Mm,
intentionally, but you don't know what you're doing until you can look back in hindsight. I was truly in survival mode. And I thought that if I had come out of the home and I could figure out what the heck was going on with me, why I was doing all these things. I was searching in all avenues. I ended up having an affair. I traveled. I was looking every place to find something to fill this hole, and it would fill up, but it was fleeting. I call it a
yeah.
hole in my love cup. And so I would go after it again, and I couldn't figure out what it was that I was missing. And in hindsight, I couldn't believe that I had actually caused harm to my children, or I made them feel abandonment issues when I so wanted not to have any of those issues, right? I think I realized that, oh my gosh, this must be what they're talking about, generational trauma or generational curses, where you kind of do the same stuff, different story. I didn't abuse them physically or sexually, but I wasn't emotionally available. And so, not knowing that in the time, I was just doing the best I could with what I knew how, thinking I was doing a great job. But in hindsight, looking back and going, oh God, that was kind of messed up. Um,
Well, in a lot of ways, I think a lot of us can look back and say, "Oh, because we take our lens that we have developed over years of experimenting with life, and
yeah,
we look back on the way we raised our kids and go, "What was I thinking?" But
exactly.
you were like what I keep hearing is you were a lost soul.
Oh, I was.
You were just you were just playing out your own wounds, and how
Yeah.
painful.
How painful. And here's the thing. I had no idea.
Oh
I
wow.
had no idea that that was running in the background and driving my life. I honestly didn't. I knew there was some discord within, or as they say, dis-ease. I was not comfortable in my skin, and I would do things like drink or whatever to, push that back down because I had no coping skills. I didn't come from a family that mirrored unconditional love no matter what you do, just because you are who you are. We love you. It was very conditional. If you do well, if you don't embarrass us, if you then we will give you attention. But so I had to unlearn all the things that I had learned and really take on bring a whole new set of glasses and ask life to show me it different because it was to a point where I was in a lot of pain.
Well, what prompted you to start looking for
Mm.
a different perspective?
Yeah, so I had an accident 7 years ago. And I I was traveling as a hospice nurse, and I was moving from the Montana area trying to get to Texas. I ended up having an automobile accident where I went off an embankment. I had an L1 burst fracture when I came down and a severe closed head injury, traumatic brain injury. And it was, as I share this story, again, I'm being very vulnerable and I'm sharing my vulnerability in hopes that if it resonates with somebody, that it can help them move to that next level. And I am going to preface this by saying this is my experience. I don't have all the spiritual awareness or answers. I am learning as I go, but I do share the experience now because I think there's a few nuggets in there that people have confirmed helps them when they take on some of the things that I've learned through this experience and apply them to their life.
Mm.
So I had this accident. I was very close to death and dying because I had been a hospice nurse. Um, and so there wasn't necessarily a fear of death in that aspect, but there was some confusion about things like terminal agitation and end of life visioning and reaching and that sort of thing. And as a nurse, I went in as a nurse and we used medications and it was a beautiful thing to see, but there was still something I didn't quite understand. And after I had my own experience, um, this altered state of reality, um, I recognized some things that I didn't recognize before. So when I first had the accident, it was complete darkness, but there was an awareness of what was happening around me. So I knew that I was in the accident, but I had a sense of calm, Julie, that it's a very hard thing to articulate. Um, I don't remember like engaging with the people. I don't remember what they necessarily look like, but I felt so loved, so held, so supported. I knew that I had been in the accident and I did not have a bit of fear. Um, it's kind of like an in and out. I wasn't in this reality and but I was not, I don't know where I was, but I wasn't here.
Yeah.
So I was so consumed by this warmth, this peace, this trust in humanity. I was seeing divinity in these people that I couldn't see, but I could feel like there's just divinity and I'm being held. Now, I have to say that I actually forgot about that piece because what follows was so scary to me that I blocked that because I couldn't process what had happened, which I'm getting ready to share with you. Um, and ultimately, it's led me here. So let me go ahead and tell you what happens next. They took me to a trauma unit, and they recognized that my wounds were not stable, and they needed to transport me to a higher level trauma unit, and we had to get surgery done right away. Um, I'm not engaging. I'm not here. I'm in darkness. I understand there's things happening. I don't really even care because I just feel like everything is I'm taken care of here.
So you weren't actually in that time period when all this is happening, you were pretty removed from what was happening here on the
Yes.
trauma level.
Right,
And
right.
you were kind of in this ethereal state.
Yes.
Okay.
And like I said, it was darkness. I knew what was happening, but I didn't know, I wasn't even interested in getting into the details. I was just in this space of darkness, peace, and felt very held. I did have a little bit of fear rise in me. I was traveling with my little dog. And the first time I remember feeling a change was when they said they were going to have to impound my dog. Um, and I thought, oh gosh, we don't do that. And this nurse that came around the corner and said, honey, don't worry about it. I got your dog. I'm going to take care of it. And again, it's like, oh my gosh, there are angels here on earth. I could not see her at the time. I don't remember talking to her, but just the feeling that all was going to be taken care of. And then I remember hearing that the surgeon had done so like maybe 10 surgeries. I don't remember the exact number, but it like in my awareness, I thought, wow, that's a lot. And we're moving into the next day. And he's like, we got to get it done now. And I'm thinking, I hope he gets some coffee and takes a nap. Or I might have even said it to him. I'm not sure, but that was fear. The next
Yeah.
thing I remember, I'm presented in a warehouse type setting, for lack of a better word. It was very dark, not necessarily dark, but vast, damp space that felt contained, had no walls, had a door, and had a ceiling. I felt the presence of my children behind me, and I turned to them to like invite them to come with me, not sure where we were going, but they gave me a look that we didn't exchange words, but it was, I felt, we are not going on you with this journey. You're on your own. And Julie, fear started to rise in me. And I thought, what's happening? Where am I? They walked out at this heavy door. And when the door shut, I ran over to it, and it had a little window. And I'm looking out, and they walk off into some barren land that looks like it's been mowed down by heavy equipment. And the door would not open. And I just am panicked. The panic is getting louder and louder and more intense. And I thought, where am I? What is happening? And I turned back into the room. And there were a few scenes that there was a gentleman that was over to the left that was a prior patient who was HIV positive. He was going through some really traumatic stuff visually. It was very hard for me to watch what he was going through. The fear starts to compound, not knowing where I am. I want to help him find his part. Like all these emotions are going on, but I feel like I can't do anything. Like I'm just kind of stuck and I can't help. Um, and then I notice off into the right corner that there are two children, a little boy and a little girl, around the ages of maybe 7 to 9. And as I start to move that direction, there's, for a lack of a better word, like a film that starts, and I immediately recognize that this is my childhood. And in the review, I am living through the trauma of my abuse, both physically and sexually. The fear continues to rise. I'm very sad. I'm very confused. I'm not only looking at it from the outside, I'm back in it. So I'm looking at it from the eyes of my childhood. And I'm just so sad and so overwhelmed. Again, not knowing where the heck I was. And then as I'm thinking, this is so sad. I don't want to do this anymore. And then as that starts to go away, I catch the glimpse of the little boy and the little girl again. I start to see another review. Instantly, I know that it's not mine. It comes to me that this is the little girl's review. And Julie, this time in the review, when I say my childhood was very challenging, hold on, this always gets me.
Oh, it's okay. Take your time.
Hers was much more challenging than mine. And not only was I watching her from the outside, but I was in it with her. I was seeing it from her eyes. I was feeling it through her emotions.
Wow.
I was fearful. I felt like I had everything that she was feeling, and I had mine. So it's just like, everything kept compounding. Like when you think it can't get any bigger, it just kept getting bigger.
Yeah.
I get to the point where like I can't do this anymore. Hers goes away. The little boys comes in, and Julie, geez, just when you think it can't, just when you think this can't get any worse, it's worse. And I feel his anger, and I feel his vulnerability, and I feel him being scared. And I thought, I am in hell. I'm in hell with these children, and I can't do this anymore. And so I get a sensation that it starts as a warmth in my feet, and it moves up, and it causes me to look up. And as I do, I notice there's cracks in the ceiling, and the cracks like get wider, and this brilliant light starts to come through. And then the tiles start to lift, and it almost starts to pour. This brilliant light starts, but I am in such a state of fear, confident that I am in hell, that I think it's lava fire that's going to burn me. And so I bend over to brace for it, thinking, okay, this is it. And the next thing I remember is feeling excruciating pain in my back. And I pop myself up, and I recognize I'm not in the same scene. I'm actually in the hospital but it's like this weirdness in that I'm just coming out of this. I just got burned by the fire. Didn't I just get burned by that fire? Like, wait, where am I? Sort of what's happening.
Mm,
Um, and I was so afraid. I was so fearful. And when I first came to in this reality, I look over and I see this beautiful African American lady, and I thought, oh, I said to her, "Who are you?" And she said, "I'm here to keep you safe." And I was like, "Great, we got to get out of here," because I'm like thinking that, all of this is still, we're in it. Like, we got to go. Um, and so what I found out later is that she was there to keep me safe because of my traumatic brain injury. They reserve heavy sedation because they want to make sure that your neuro components are coming back. So they
okay.
had to have, bless their hearts, people sit with me and keep me in the bed because as I was moving through, I was acting it out and I was trying to run out of the hospital. So,
Okay.
and I had just had spinal fusion surgery, and
Mm,
I don't even know how many times I popped out of that bed right after surgery, but they had to manually keep me there. Um, I did not speak of this when I came out of it because I thought I don't want anybody to know I went to hell. I definitely don't want anybody to know about my past, right? People that have been through trauma just want it to go away and they don't want to have to talk about it. There's just a lot that goes with that. So I kept it quiet. I went home. Recovery was very, very challenging, not only physically, emotionally, spiritually, but I was also dealing with my very best friend who had terminal cancer. And so it was just a lot.
that's a
I
lot.
It was a
And how
lot.
many years ago was this, Michelle?
I just celebrated my seventh anniversary.
Uh,
So it took me, though, 2 years of going down this really shitty rabbit hole, excuse my language, where I
you're
was drinking and I was, shoving in because that's how I coped. And it would try to come up, but as soon as it did, I'd get afraid or ooh, it felt gross. And so I'd shove it back down. And I got stuck in that loop. Um, it was a challenging, most low, right? They say you kind of things happen when you're at your lowest. And so after my friend passed away, I realized I need help, but I definitely wasn't going to look at the Bible or that whole thing because of my history, right? And so I had been a seeker. I hadn't heard about meditation. I heard about certain things. And so I thought I'll go ahead and try this meditation thing. And I laid on the couch and just distraught, really at my lowest low. And it's like, I need help. I need help. And so I started doing just paying attention to my breathing, like they say to do. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I actually had an image of meditation being something completely different than what it ended up being for me. So that was kind of cool.
yeah.
What ultimately ended up happening is I got into such a state. It felt like a dream type state, almost like that altered state of reality, where I was taken back into the warehouse with the children. But
Mm.
Julie, this time when I went back, I was held. It was much softer. It was shared with me in that moment that those children were my abusers.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't expecting this morning. Hold on. Hold
That's a
on.
lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, that's a lot. But that's such a um beautiful example of perspective.
Right. It
And
um
it's
it
so
flipped it
interesting.
it flipped it on its head. And where alls I could do is this compassion and this love for these beautiful children, innocent. I saw their innocence. And although what happened was not right, I got it. I understood. Like, wow, I now see why this happened. And it had nothing really to do with me, although I ended up making it all about me, right? In the way I was living my life.
Yeah.
So it became very clear. The truth was revealed.
You
And
know, and can sorry to interrupt you, but
no,
I
that's
just
okay.
talk a little bit about how this perspective changes. It's from my perspective, it's like when we can understand why people act out the way they do, it helps us to have that compassion for them,
Yes.
but it also at the same time the self-compassion that we need to give ourselves. So it doesn't discount the harm that we received, but it
Amen.
helps us understand from a different perspective.
Completely. And when I tell you I did not know that my glasses were so smudgy and that trauma was actually driving on a subconscious level, driving my life and the way I saw things and people and how I related. But when that happened, it lifted. And I had thought I had forgiven them. Yeah, I forgive you. I forgive you. Yeah, no part. Well, I'll still talk to you, whatever. I forgive you. But I didn't know that I hadn't truly forgiven them until that moment when I did forgive them. When it lifted and it shifted everything for me. And then I was also shown that light that I was so afraid of, the God light, the life source energy, was coming in to allow me to look at it from a different perspective. But I was all up in my way like I normally was. And I was like, I can't do this. And I was so afraid of life and love and God. And I had no clue. And it was right there to help me. And I poo-pooed away and was like, oh no. So once all of this
You
started,
innocently rejected it.
I innocently reject, but I was rejecting. And so, it's just been a beautiful mirror to look back now and say, oh my gosh, all of this was happening for me, not to me. I wouldn't know this joy if I had not known its contrast. And, there's been lots of things that have come to me and then, and I think it comes to me first, but maybe I've heard it somewhere because then I go do research and it's out there and it's like, wow, I must have tapped into something that is helping me. I got out of my way, first of all, and I really did lean into this faith thing. Now, not in the traditional faith that I grew up in, right? But faith became, I'm going to trust this life energy that I know is I've always felt it. I've always known that it's been there, but I've denied it because I didn't want to be weird or I didn't, it wasn't explained to me. So I didn't know what that was. And so I was fighting it, not knowing that it was actually there to serve me. And I think a lot of people do that. I think that's our ego, actually. I think that's that, the edging of God out, and we try to run it and make sense of our thing, and we don't trust. And so faith for me was getting out of my way, trusting life, and saying, okay, if you've got something for me, help me. And I'll be darn. Life started to show up, people started to show up. And the only thing that changed was me and my perspective. That's it. Like that's the only thing that switched around. My relationships got better. I have more friends than I've ever had. I was a bit of a recluse before. Alcohol is not, I am not, there is nothing that has me imprisoned like it did before because I recognize all of that was my attempt at keeping myself safe. And where before it was a fight and I felt gross and you're such a gross person, I realized it was functional, as dysfunctional as it was. And I did the best I could knowing what I knew at the time. Now that I have this information, hot dog, like let's go. So it's an amazing place to live. And I'm just so grateful for all of it.
Wow. What a remarkable story, Michelle. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Mm,
And I know there's so much more to this too,
yeah.
because when I look at the fact that you'd been working as an RN, that you had been working with those who were terminally ill, that you had been working in this space of
Hmm.
death and dying,
Hmm.
and then you had your own death experience, and I just can't imagine what that felt like when you started to integrate it. And I think this is our humanness. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this, but I think this is our humanness because when we have these types of experiences like you did, you talk about it taking a couple of years for you to kind of understand, oh, that's what was going on, and kind of break down the the lens that you were previously looking at things through, because we do live in this linear space.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so it doesn't happen automatically, but everything that you needed was in that moment. It's just from our human perspective, we need the time to integrate. That's the linear world that we live in.
Hmm.
So when you look back on your work with the, the dying, the people who were actively dying, how did that change? How did your experience change your perspective on what you had previously experienced in that field?
Mm, great question. So, we we spoke about, end of life. There's a couple things that happen that are very typical with end of life, and one of them is called visioning, which is absolutely beautiful, where people will see loved ones. They'll see energetic things that we in our physical form can't see, but it is so consistent that you can't deny it. So once you've been in that energy, you know when you're in it, you know when you're there. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You can't deny it. Um, that's a beautiful thing to witness. On the other side of that is something called terminal agitation. And this is another reason I share my story, because had I didn't, and again, this is my experience and my belief. Nobody knows truly what happens when we leave this physical form. I have beliefs around it, but this is what I have, the conclusion I've come to that makes sense to me and that I want to share with people, so that if they get to that state where they're at end of life and stuff starts to come up that you might be seeing in a life review that's very scary, hang on, because that is coming up to be released. That dense energy, that separation energy that we pick up in our conditioning in life, um, anything that is dense and dark and is not of truth and light, it will come to the surface, and it is coming to the surface to be looked at and to be released, because you cannot go back to the highest vibration of all that is holding on to that. It's not going with you. So it's going to come up, and it's coming up for you to be able to see it from a different perspective, from the truth of what it is. That's what I believe now is terminal agitation. And I would medicate, I would give medication to comfort them, but I didn't understand maybe what was possibly going on internally, that it was an undoing of the falsities that they had picked up. And because it can look distressing. It can look like they're uncomfortable. Um, and so when I thought, that's exactly what's happening. They look like they're picking at their clothes. They're trying to get out of the bed. They need somebody there to keep them safe and in the bed and reassure them, right? The same thing. Um, and always, 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 there is a peace that comes behind that before the final breath, before the departure of the soul from the physical form. So I want people to know that, so that if they're in that state, they can say, "Oh, I remember that girl. She said that this might be happening for me." So you don't have to be so afraid,
Yeah.
because at the end, I truly believe that we go back to the highest vibration of all, that we came from. All of us do. Um, but in moving back there, it can be a little bumpy. Just like when we came in, we don't have a recall of how bumpy that was coming through the birth canal and popping into this light. On the back end, it can be a little bumpy, but again, just hang on, because it's also beautiful if you can look at it like that. If you look at birthing, it's kind of like, if you just look at birthing, you go, ugh. But if you look at birthing from a different perspective, a deeper level, all this is a rebirth, or a birthing back into that you came from. How
Yeah.
beautiful, right?
How
Yeah.
beautiful. And as you say that, I'm thinking that is a wonderful perspective for someone who is experiencing this active end of life. But it's also a wonderful perspective for those family members and friends who are witnessing it
Yes.
and realizing that there's purpose
Yes.
in the experience, in the transition.
Yes.
And so it's not as scary
Right.
for them as well.
Exactly.
And actually, it's interesting because you talk about birth. It's the same thing
It is.
when we have some education around birth as a mom who's given birth.
Mm-hmm.
When we have some education around that, before we experience the birth process, it's a lot less scary
Right.
than if all of a sudden you're just giving birth and you have no idea what's going on or what to expect.
Exactly. Oh, you're so right. I never really thought about it like that, but yes, you nailed that. That's so
Yeah.
true. And for it to be somebody's truth, it has to be experiential. And so I get some people are going to hear this and go, "Oh my gosh, she's lost her mind." And that is okay. Because losing my mind has been the best thing that ever happened to me.
I don't
It
think my audience is going to think you've lost your mind. They're going to just appreciate the experience that you had and your willingness
yeah.
to share it. And
Uh,
it's another piece. We're creating this tapestry with all of our
Mm,
stories. We're creating this tapestry of understanding that I think is flooding the earth right now.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And since we're talking about what's happening right now on the collective, I believe that what might be happening here is that on a collective level, we're going through the same thing that I went through on an individual level. The the things that aren't working, the false cities are being brought to the surface for us to take a look at.
Yeah.
And how we choose to respond to this is really the tipping and pivotal point, right? We can focus on the fear component of it, or we can focus on the love and the opportunity that's coming with this. And that, I believe, is where the split might happen, where some people are just going to be, stuck in fear. And then other people will say, wait a minute, what? Of course, this has to be undone so that we can come back with something that works better. As we have always been evolving, right? We don't look the same as we did when we came in. We evolved through this whole thing. Life is evolving through us. God source energy is living life through us. It is a continual evolution. And so right now it's a tough one. It was like those 2 years of darkness for me, right? It was very dark. It was a dark, dark place to be. But hang on.
Yeah.
And free will allows you to choose where you're going to look. Are you going to look in the direction of love and light and potential, or are you going to stay hooked into fear and that side? There's only two ways to go. There's really no middle line. So that's the opportunity here too, is where do I stand in this? Am I going to be part of the solution or part of the problem? Am I going to grow and learn through this myself? Because it's also showing each individual person what is not allowing them to be free. If fear is popping up and you are just like beside yourself and you're not trusting that life has got you, ding, ding, ding. I call it God's wink. And it's super uncomfortable. And so it kind of is an oxymoron here, but it's God saying, wait a minute, you feel so uncomfortable because you are looking at it from a perspective that's out of alignment with the truth. That's all that is. So when you get that visceral, that's God's little wink to say, here it is. You want to try again? Most of the time, what I did is I would go into bull, like, no, hey, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to fight back and I'm going to be right. Blah, blah, blah.
We're
Now
taught
I can,
competition, we're taught winning, we're taught, fight against injustice, fight here, fight there.
oh,
And you're speaking to so many important things, and I'm so glad you brought the conversation back to this because as you were sharing your experience about people transitioning from life to death and these things coming up so that it can be released, that happens to us all the time.
oh, you are so right. Every single day, right?
And things come up, and instead of feeling like, oh, this is happening for me, this is coming up so that I can clear it, we take it and we shove it back down again and we reclaim the trash that we're actually meant to
Yes.
let go of. I also want to
Oh, that's so
mention
good.
one other thing about your story because I can relate to it so much is that and you probably don't know anything about my story, but I was in a accident with my children, and my two youngest children died in a rollover accident when I was
Oh,
driving the car. And
wow.
so before that happened, and this was Mother's Day 2007, so it's been 19 years now. But before that happened, when I look back, I think I was asleep. Like I was at some level spiritually aware, but not. And then that happened, and then I lived through hell for 3 years
Yeah.
until I was able to integrate some of the things that had happened that turned the light on and I was awakened. And I feel like you went through that same trajectory.
Yeah.
So
It
I
moves
just,
me. Sorry, I'm going to cry again. I'm a crier. It just moves me. That's so awesome. That's so beautiful. Thank
yeah.
you for sharing that.
And so we
Powerful.
have these
Yeah.
experiences where we feel like we're dying,
Yeah.
and we are.
Oh, we are.
We
Yes, we
are.
are. We
We're
are.
rebirthing. We're dying and
Yep.
rebirthing. So when we leave heaven or whatever you want to call the spirit realm to come here. We're dying from that experiencing and birthing here. And when we die here, we're dying from this experiencing and birthing there. And we have almost every day is an opportunity for rebirth.
Absolutely. Man, you nailed that.
I love your
That is
story so
beautiful.
much.
I love your story. I'm still over here trying to move past it. Hold on a second. I didn't have a moment to sit with that. Um, and it's so
But I,
beautiful to
but I
connect with
think,
another soul that has been through the really hard, shitty, dark stuff and been able to come out on the other side. I just love that. So thank you.
well, and I just wanted to point out that pattern because
Yeah,
if you're listening right now, if and you're going through the dark night of the soul, there's purpose in that experience.
absolutely. Thank you, Julie. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. I am just enthralled with the beauty of your experiences coming from that space of
Mm,
companioning
mm,
and then having your own death experience
hmm
and then coming out with a whole new understanding. I think I am so grateful that you're willing to share.
Thank you. Thank you.
So much truth that you are sharing with us, and I just really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
What are some of the other things that have started to come online and understanding around all of this?
Oh gosh, there's been so many beautiful things. I agree with you 100% that every day we are given an opportunity to life is going to bring people and situations to us that is going to show us where we're not quite free. Um, and I think that was coined maybe by a gentleman named Peter Crone, I think. Anyways, but there's truth to that, and so those things that come to us on a daily basis, and I started in the morning time. I'll wake up in the morning just so grateful for another day. Really, you get a second chance at life, and you wake up to it. It's so magical. You're just so grateful. You can't help but hit the floor with a sense of gratitude. It's amazing how all the bullshit that I used to think about, excuse me,
You're fine.
in the morning, I would ruminate stuff that had happened, and I kept bringing stuff up, every day I'd get up. It was just such a chore. Now it's like I can pop out of bed, and I know that things and people are going to come to me that is going to give me the God wink, that's going to viscerally challenge me. But now I'm excited about it. It's like, okay, I know it's coming. So how can I best move through this? Julie, I've got one going on right now. And it's a hard one because it involves a friendship of 30 years. And before I would have been lost in this particular situation where I feel like there's a challenge, there's no respect, the things that you think of, and when you're not in your alignment, right? So I started going down the rabbit hole, and so I don't get it right all the time, but I'm aware of it. And so I start going down the rabbit hole, and I'll do the looping thought, and I'll think over and over, just to justify my BS of what I'm thinking in my mind and to make myself right. But then it'll feel so gross, and I go, oh yeah, that's God's wink. I'm looking at this the wrong way, and I might not be able to do it within the first while I'm standing in front of them. Like I might not be able to do it right then, but the more you practice, the better you get. So you take it home, and this one I couldn't clear it in 24 hours, and we're going on 48, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, am I losing it? But it's just because it's so deep, right? It's really bringing up some of my deep wounds. It has nothing to do with her right now. And when you can own that and say, okay, help me see this differently, how can I feel better? Or show me the truth of what this is trying. It's never about the other person when you're visceral, right? And that when that came online, I was like, oh my God, this is all about me. And it is. it's,
That is such a hard concept.
it's so hard. But once you get that one, then you start to see other people's wounds and how they're functioning. And then you can say, wait, that's yours. And this is mine. And you don't get all enmeshed in the fight to be right and who's going to win and lose friends. And you can just say, okay, thank you for this opportunity. Either we're going to come back in alignment or not, but it's an opportunity for me to move up to the next level because I always feel better when I can release it. In my past life, I would have brought that back around every time I heard her name, every time I saw her, when I was watching TV. It would just looped over and over. Now it's like, oh,
Ah,
okay, I got it. I might not be perfect at this, but I'm going to keep trying, right? There's some insecurity, there's wounds that are coming up with her where we're standing right now. We're not agreeing on something. Wow. Thanks for that opportunity. It's hard. It doesn't feel good. Before I would have been drinking it down. I would have, now I'm like, come on up. Let's go ahead and get it out. And I'm like crying, carry on and feel uncomfortable. But once you clear it, it's like, whew, thank you so much for that. You just
wow.
feel lighter each time.
You know, I 'cause I worked in the grief space for a few years before I developed my mediumship abilities. And I used to always say triggers are just evidence that there's more to heal. That's all it is.
Oh my gosh, that is it.
And
Yes.
that's what you're talking about with
Yes,
trigger.
absolutely. Triggers are such a gift where before I would be fighting them. It's just an opportunity to heal. And that's what I was calling them, the God wink. But I like the way that you put that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go back to something you said earlier about meditation
Mm,
and how you decided you were going to start sitting in this quiet space
hmm.
and how meditation ended up being different than you thought it would be.
Yeah.
I have had that same experience. I think anybody that has practiced any type of meditation, we're trying to create the experience that maybe we've heard somebody talk about or we've seen. We see people sitting in the lotus position and they can sit there for 2 hours and we're like, we can't wrap our head around that. And so
Hmm.
we, a lot of times for me, it took me a long time to try meditation because I had these expectations. Honestly,
Yes.
this applies
Hmm.
to everything.
Yeah. 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 No, no, that's so true. It
The
was my expectations
expectations
that
that mess us
blocked
up.
me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It was my expectations too. And then once I actually got into meditation, I was like, oh, this is it. This
So,
is it.
will you share what meditation, how that developed for you and what your experience was with meditation? So I think that can be really helpful.
Absolutely. So my expectation was I was supposed to get to a place where there were no thoughts, free, completely free of thought. And that never happens. It never happened. There was always one little thought in there that blew it for me. It's like, I
I
just
love
can't.
the way you went.
Yeah. So when I was so desperate, I was so open to receive. I was at that place, like take me out. I've already been to hell, so either take me out or help me. Like I was so open that particular day that when I got in that state, it wasn't about forgetting. It was about allowing stuff to come up that was uncomfortable. Like that came up was me. We went back to the place that I so wanted to avoid, and I was held, and it was peaceful, and I wasn't afraid, and I was shown what the light was trying to show me the first time. I was given a second chance to see it, and was actually, I heard it. I heard these, like, so it's in that meditative state. I was not aware of my surrounding. I was back in it, like that altered state of reality, near death experience, whatever we call that. And there's a lot of people will fight and say you didn't have a near death experience or whatever it is. Whether it's, near death means you don't actually die, but whether it's chemical changes, whether the neurologies, whatever is happening, it is very revelatory. It
Hmm.
is very revealing. So near death, medicinal induced meditation, it is very similar. When I was led back there, and I don't get it all the time, but when I can get quiet and let that noise of the outside go away and whatever comes up, and if it's uncomfortable, now I can say, or I can take something in. Let me go there. I'll take that something in. Like I took in this situation with my friend, and I'll sit with it and I'll ask, how can I see this differently? What is this trying to teach me? How can I see this differently? What is this trying to teach me? And I might repeat that just to, like, really thinking about it. And then something, the noise from the outside starts to fall away, and the focus comes in on the situation. And so that's where I'll get answers to see how I can see it differently. I was given answers to see her wounds, where she's coming from, and knowing her for 30 years, it all made sense. But when I was not in that meditative state, I couldn't see it. I thought she was just being a butthole.
So I
But
want to
then,
highlight the two questions because I think your two questions are brilliant. How can I see this differently? And what's the other question?
what is this trying to teach me?
What is this trying to teach me?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
Yeah. Because it is all life is trying to help us, right? Those things are being brought to us to try and help us. And so I think in the Bible it says, ask and you will receive. And that's it. If you ask in that state and you want to see it different and you're open to getting out of your way and stepping into the other person's perspective, that's kind of a hard one to do because we hold on to our rightness, right? We want to be, and that's a safety. It's not, it doesn't mean we're bad. We're just trying to hold on to what we think keeps us safe. But you can actually step into their perspective and release them. And then once you can release them, you can release yourself, and it gets better, better and better.
What is coming up for me is that we need better questions.
Mm,
Because what we tend to do is, why is this happening to me? And why can't I get them
yeah.
to figure out my perspective? And why
Mm.
can't I explain this so that they understand me? Those are the questions that we tend to ruminate on.
Yes, we do.
And when
Oh,
we
yeah.
can ask powerful questions like you just suggested,
Yeah,
because the questions are going to create our reality.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, you just are so full of just beautiful wisdom. And I know that wisdom has been hard won
Hmm.
through really painful life experiences. And so I just want to honor that little girl
Thank
and
you.
that young woman who felt harmed and lost and I just really appreciate the beauty of your transformation. I know that word is overused and maybe not as powerful as it could be, but this is a transformative. This is a well, transformative is the only way that I can think
It's
of
a
it.
great word. Yeah, it really is a
Transformative
transformation.
experience.
Yeah,
Wow, because
absolutely.
I imagine that if you look at Michelle 10 years ago versus Michelle right now,
Mm.
probably don't relate to you probably are like worlds
No,
apart.
and that's so beautiful that you brought that up, right? Because I went there. I didn't like that person. I was not a happy person. I was struggling and grinding, and now I had no idea that life was so amazing. I had no clue that it really is here to help us. All of those hard things that come our way, if we can just move out of the way and have faith that life has got us, think and be aware. Awareness is so key. Like you really got to tap into what's happening around you and what you're thinking, like what's going on in my mind as we're, because I don't know, I think I'm like a lot of people. I was blowing through life. I was really very asleep, but I think you said something to that too spiritually. But I was just asleep, and I was making myself right, and I was trying to be loved, and I was effing it up left and right. It's
Yeah.
but faith is
A
a
lot
big
of
one.
efforting. A lot
A
of
lot
efforting.
of efforting. That's a great way to put it, and that's exhausting way to live. It's an exhausting way to live.
100%.
Hmm.
So one of the questions I like to ask all my guests is what are some of this we've talked about meditation, but what are some of the spiritual practices that you enjoy that helps you stay connected?
Oh yeah. So I did write a book that was very therapeutic for me to move through all of this. And so one of the greatest lessons that I think that there's so many great ones. It's hard to say which one is the greatest, but one of the other wonderful things that became my truth is that we are divine spiritual beings having this human experience, that we are a fractal of that light source energy. Somebody shared with me, it would, if you think of it as a beam of light moving through a prism, and we are the color that comes across, but we're still a reflection of the main beam. You know what I mean? We're still a
Mm-hmm.
reflection of that. We can't be separate from that. It was so ingrained in me as a child that I was separate from that, and I needed another party to go through that. And don't even look that direction, because if you look at them the wrong way, and you're, you know, so
Yeah.
so so
Yeah.
recognizing that we are divine, we are powerful, so much more powerful than. And I had heard this stuff before, but it landed once it became experiential. And so, again, if you don't, if it's not landing for you right now, it's okay. Just if you're open to the possibility that there might be something to this, and you ask life to show you, it will, because I think everyone's purpose, if we can get there, is to become the most evolved, best version of who we are in our human form. And then we have the lesson, and life had its experience through us, and then we're back with the divine. Like, that's my belief. That's my belief. But yeah, sorry, I kind of lost the question in that.
Well, that's okay because you brought up something else that I wanted to explore for just a second. And then also I want you to share how people can connect with you and your
Yeah.
book and so forth. But you spoke early on about feeling this light, but feeling like it was covered up
Mm.
with like leaf and debris and that kind of thing. How do you experience that light now? Do you have a
Oh
different
man.
perspective on that?
Yeah, those leaves are gone. They, like little fragments of the leaf might come over and whatever, but I feel like I'm finally shining. Like I got it. I've got it. And
Beautiful.
I don't have it every single day, but I have it so much better than I had it then. And each day is an improvement, and each day comes an opportunity. Some days I miss them, some days I don't. But the majority of the time, my little light is shining now. There's no leaves covering it up.
That's beautiful. And where
Yeah.
can people connect with you, Michelle?
Yeah, MichelleLedbetter.com. There's information there about me and my book. And I really just I want to help people move to that next level. So if any of this resonates with you, please feel free to reach out to me. This is about transition in life and in death. And so I think that we can work on our false limiting beliefs now, so we don't necessarily have to do it at end of life. And that just opens this lifetime to being heaven on earth.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I just really appreciate you sharing
Oh,
your
I
story.
appreciate you too. Thank you so much.
We hadn't met before, but I just had a feeling this morning that this was going to be a beautiful conversation and very
Mm,
enlightening. So,
mm.
thank you.
Thank you.